You're right around Australia, wherever you might be, a very warm Final Four welcome to NBL Overtime. Hashtag NBL Overtime. Only 4 teams remain. We get into it Thursday night. We can't wait for it. You got thoughts? Let us know. Hashtag NBL Overtime. All the socials. So much to get into. The GOAT is back. Allegedly, apparently, in the kingdom. We'll get to all the breaking news shortly. I'm going to go my man Liam Santa Maria first. Hello, buddy.
What's happening, man?
I'm good. You pumped? I'm excited.
I'm very excited. We got down to the Final Four. We know who's going to play in these playoff series, and last night was wild.
Now, I don't know if you know this. What I'm about to say, you already know. So when you win 2 championships and you're a league grand final MVP, and honestly, you probably should have been a 2-timer, right? Do you know what you're now known as in 2024?
You tell me.
The ambassador. And here he is, the ambassador. Leonard Copeland.
I was wondering where he was going with that.
That ad, you've got your old footage out.
You're asking all the questions. You're asking all the questions beforehand. Now I see where you're going. Okay.
That's a cool ad.
Oh,
and it's great. How you doing, Coach?
I'm good, brother.
You good?
I'm excited, like you say. The NBA, we finally got to the Final Four. It took a long time, but now I'm excited. I'm sitting in front of that TV going nuts.
How is life as the ambassador? Has life changed for you, my man?
You guys are so
You know what you meant? Actually, I've made a mistake. It's going to go the ambassador. You know why? You're not there for free, are you?
These guys, man.
Love it. But you know what? The ad's great because it leads us into what's going to be a wonderful couple of weeks.
Yes, it is.
And it starts on Thursday night, and we need one more team to get there. And it was a Monday night in Wollongong in front of 5,000 to define it. There's the bracket right there. Melbourne and Perth, as Copes alluded to, has been waiting. Tasmania last Wednesday night, brilliant. Both New Zealand and Illawarra got a chance to be that 4th team. And last night it was Illawarra who earned the right to go to Melbourne on Thursday night. Then Friday night, in front of the Red Army, it will be the JJs on the road to take on the Perth Wildcats.
Well, we arrived at 1 verse 4 and 2 verse 3 after all of that business with the play-in tournament, but they were great games.
Yes.
And, you know, it was great that those teams had to earn their way there. Sydney and New Zealand made things tough. I'm a bit sad to see the Breakers eliminated. You know, they were playing with great heart and grit and determination, but I like where we've landed. These were the top 4 teams at the end of the regular season, and now they're going to battle it out.
And this is where we sit, right, Coach? Let's go straight to last night because there feels like, and this is what happens in sport. New Zealand had such a big win in Sydney, and people started to get that sense that New Zealand, bit of momentum after Illawarra, were fairly disappointing last Wednesday night. But that first quarter by the Hawks last night was brilliant.
Well, when you got 2 great coaches, and both of these guys know what they're doing, it was always going to be like that. The fan, like Liam said, full house. New Zealand had played their best game. They came out ready to go, but Illawarra, man, they just turned it on in that first quarter, and Dave O'Hickey was magnificent. To start him is something different, Liam. When do you ever start a guy who probably wouldn't have played in the beginning of the year? Did he play any minutes in the beginning of the year?
The spot minutes.
So he's starting now with the most important game of the year, and he's playing well.
Yeah, and it was a cool move because what Mody Mayor's been doing is starting 3 guards, Will McDowell-White, Parker Jackson-Cartwright, and Isaiah Liafa.
Yep.
And so you want to have someone on Will McDowell-White, you want to have someone on Parker Jackson-Cartwright. Now, Swakala-Book's going to guard one of those guys.
Yep.
Who's going to guard the other? It's not going to be Huang Jung Lee, right? So he flipped it up for that reason. But it was more than that. It was the energy that he brought.
Yeah.
Now, Justin Robinson was sensational.
He was.
Over the course of the night. 14 for 14, record-making stuff. He came up big in the club.
His second half was the type of play we've been expecting. Of course, it was a stalled start to his career here in Australia. He gets that job last year, gets hurt. They backed him in. They backed him in for that exact reason last night. His second half was brilliant, and when Tyler Harvey and him are sort of on song together, it makes life a lot easier. A big thing with Hickey is, and Justin Tatum put this on the record, and I quote, 40 minutes of hell. And predominantly that means full court pressure and the way they push back. And the reason that people have been going to watch this team, not just because of the W's, but the fact they play a really fast, intense, enjoyable brand of basketball. And Hickey plays into that. He's a full-court athletic guy. They've got a lot of offensive players as well, but he is someone who can put the ball in the bucket, which he showed in the first half. In fact, in the first quarter. So I thought it was a brilliant move, and it was just a brilliant game of basketball.
Up-tempo. You say he plays fast. He plays up-tempo. But in the beginning, he made a lot of bad mistakes in the beginning of the season. Now he's so comfortable playing in his role that it just, the other guys get confidence watching him play. He's going to dive for loose balls. He's going to knock down a little shot when he has to. He's not making those terrible mistakes that he did earlier in the season. And that's, a lot of that has to do with Tatum and his confidence in putting him on the floor.
Almost from player number 1 down to player number 12. That's been the change with Justin Tatum, right? The confidence he instills in all these players, be it a Sam Froling, be it a Tyler Harvey, be it a Dave O'Hickey. The fact is they have more belief in themselves than they had 12 weeks, 15 weeks ago.
Yeah, for sure. They're playing with great belief. The other thing is, and it's great, you've got to have guys step up in the playoffs, guys that were maybe not producing at a high level or in different roles previously, got to come up and step up. And Hickey has done that. But you've got to have your superstars and your big-time players turn up. And they've got 4 of them.
Yep.
And you've got to have at least 2 of them performing at a high level. And Sam Froling and Justin Robinson were the guys last night. Now, of course, New Zealand are putting a lot of attention on Gary Clark and a lot of attention on Tyler Harvey. Those other 2 guys, Froling, scoring down low, getting on the glass, had 20 and 10. And Justin Robinson, when he's knocking down shots, everything opens up for him. So he was diming guys up, he was getting to the free throw line, and he was knocking down.
And you know what else about Robinson? He could have taken this the wrong way. When they set him on that bench, a lot of guys come over with ego, put me on the bench, I'm going to prove to you that I'm better than that. He came in and played his role. And his role is to be a superstar, and he is a superstar, and he showed it last night. If he can continue to play like that, he's gonna cause trouble.
They were pretty ordinary last week in Tassie, in all due respect.
Yes.
And Tassie, again, it's what we do. We traditionally focus on the negatives. Tassie were great.
Yes.
Magnay was great. I know you're going to sing his praises for a good 15 minutes, and it's deserved later. But Sam Froling was not. But he was great off the tip last night. There was no hangover, be it up or down from what happened last Wednesday night in Tasmania. They went to Froling early, and he got them going in the first half. And that's a huge reason as to why their first quarter was so good, because he has, and I'm talking to Justin Tatum here, he has an incredible ability to not to allow them to get too high or too low based on what has happened in the previous game. I think last night was a good example of that.
Yeah, I think all of that is true. Let me flag this, though. If Will McDowell-White doesn't get hurt last night with that ankle, they win. I think New Zealand win that game. So Illawarra were good. I don't think they were great. I think, you talked about it was a brilliant game.
Brilliant
it was
game.
super competitive, but a lot of turnovers, both teams. You know, the New Zealand give up 20 offensive rebounds. They have 20 turnovers. As a result, they get smashed on the possession count. But, you know, you've had Anthony Lamb go down, Will McDowell-White banged up, then he has the ankle, can't play out the game. Man, Illawarra were good, but they got a little fortunate with what happened with Will McDowell-White.
Probably, I agree. I will say this as well. Melbourne United wouldn't have been sitting there worried about who comes out of that win last night.
You don't think?
You
don't think?
No. Oh, well, you are right. I don't think the game got to any great heights. They shot poorly. Both teams turned the ball over at will. And New Zealand somehow was still in the game, right? Illawarra should have shut the gate at halftime. New Zealand, unbelievable, full credit to them. We'll get to them in a moment. But I don't think Melbourne United would have seen... I think they're a lot more comfortable. This is why you finish as high as you can.
Yep.
They'll be a lot more comfortable playing Illawarra than Perth are playing Tasmania for obvious reasons, right?
Well, look, you're right. Last night there were a lot of mistakes. And let me just say this now. I think Melbourne United have the best team. I think they're going to win the championship. But let me tell you something. They know that they got to come and play on Thursday night. Me and Lim called the game a couple of weeks ago, and Illawarra came in here. Illawarra has some confidence in that building, man. They shot the ball extremely well. They rebounded the ball well. They outplayed some players. Now, Melbourne United probably didn't play their best game, and they knew they were going to finish in first, so they didn't give it their all. But you can't slip, because these guys are at this level in the playoffs, and you're sitting at home for 16, 17 days waiting. It's not going to be as easy as you think.
Firstly, let me just point this out. I'm not saying they can just roll up and win the game. Clearly, they're going to have to play to the level of which Melbourne have showed for a majority of the regular season.
Right.
And Illawarra, this fairy tale story, is amazing. But I also think that they wouldn't have watched last night and thought, we have got a team coming in here that's rolling full of great basketball.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fascinating to watch. I think the bottom line for Illawarra is they're alive.
Yes, which is all
So
that matters.
Cinderella is still at the ball. Yes. They survive, they advance, and they get to play that series. Meanwhile, the Kings and the Breakers, they're gone. And we get a chance to look at what kind of season they had. This was also a fun game, man. Great contest, big heart from the Breakers. Now, I think we kind of all knew the Sydney season was going to come to an end at some stage here, right? Like whether it was in this game or the next, they weren't a connected team, and as a result, they felt like they were on borrowed time. But this performance from Parker Jackson-Kara, the 34 points, the 6 assists, the 5 boards, the passion, the energy, what he said to D-Rock after the game, I was very, very impressed with what the Breakers brought to the table in this game.
Now, he's right, 100%. PJC was magnificent in this game. But Sydney, to me, have been up and down all year. And we spoke about this last week. Which Sydney team are you going to get? They just didn't look like a a team in the playoffs. I don't think they had a massive crowd. Would they have 8,000 people there? It just seemed like they were ready to go home before the game started. That's how it looked to me.
Well, they've had those flat patches over the course of the year where their body language hasn't quite been to the level we have seen in the last couple of years. I just want to stay on New Zealand for a bit because they deserve as many pats on the back as possible. Anthony Lamb, who I believe is their best player, and the fact he hasn't been there for a while. McDowell White is banged up. He was banged up into that game and then turns the ankle. We know they've had injuries over the course of the year, up and down. And so the only time in the last 4 years they've had any type of run of it, COVID, Game 5 of a title, 3 minutes away from winning the darn thing. And then, of course, this year. So, pats on the back. I want to raise this with you two, right? Because, honestly, Parker Jackson-Kara was incredible last Wednesday. Like, incredible, right? And if you've got that chip on their shoulder, if it's a D-Rucker list, if it's comments being made over the course of the year, they had that chip. Mody Mayor went into the press conference and alluded to the fact that, whatever it might be. I think he made a mistake half running it back the next day. Jackson-Kara, because they didn't come out as emotional and passionate last night. They were flat in the first quarter, and I loved when he ran over to D-Ruck and gave him a mouthful, and they played it after the game. They were like, you know what, we've got exterior sort of motivation. He sort of half ran it back in NBL media on Thursday, and I felt he didn't have the same energy level last night and the passion from the tip, and I think the way he plays is contagious through the team. And I think that first quarter was just a little sluggish.
Yeah, it was tricky. I mean, he wanted to make sure it wasn't all about him.
Yeah.
Well, he wanted to bring it back to the team.
But you know what? When you drop 34 in a final, I understand that.
Yeah.
But their best way of winning and continuing to win is being about him and him leading the way like he did in Sydney.
But when you drop 34 the night before, teams are sitting at home watching.
Yes, sir.
His scout was to shut him down now, try to shut him down. Every time he made a cut, put your arm on him. So he may be a little fatigued. He's not a big guy.
And some emotional fatigue
That's
as well.
right.
Like they celebrated that like it was a championship win.
100%.
And that's okay though. They were so locked in to try to survive and get through that game, and they got it.
It drained them.
It all just came down.
It drained them.
But it drained them.
Yeah.
I preferred the way Illawarra handled things last night. Now, you see Justin Robinson after the game. Very poised, very calm, cool, collected. As in suggesting this is just one step along the way of a bigger job we're trying to achieve.
Absolutely.
I just seen him taking about 16 selfies. Did you see him just doing the selfies after the game?
Who was?
Justin Robinson. It was cool to see. Sydney is a longer conversation. So our main man, Olgun Uluc, is going to come in. On the other side of this is the GOAT back. Well, he'll tell us how it all plays out next on NBL Overtime.
For PJC, he wants to start to get going now. Big cheer for Toddy Blanchfield, who checks into the game. And appearance number 400 in the NBL. 52nd player to make his 400th milestone. And he hands over to Lee, who finds Blanchfield in the corner. Ready to fire toward the back of the rim. Gets his own rebound, marches inside, and comes up with a finish at his first score in game number 400.
Big shout out to Todd Blanchfield. Game number 400. Outstanding. Been around clearly for a long time. There was a bit of confusion, wasn't there, about if it was game 400? Might have been game 402 because I think he had a couple of DNP CDs early in his career, and there's either which way, 400, 402, 405. He's still got plenty more to go. He's only 31 or 32. He's got a long time to go. So big shout to our man, Toddy Blanchfield. All right, a big shout to our man, Olgun Uluc, ESPN's own in the house. Hello.
Hello. It's been a busy week. We've had these games on. There's been just non-stop news. It's been tiring.
Let's get to Brian Goorjian. Where do we sit right as we go to air?
So today is a Tuesday. Brian Goorjian landed in Sydney this afternoon, I'm told. He will sit down with the decision makers with the Sydney Kings, and those talks will then begin to firm. So right now, it's almost like a foregone conclusion that he will be the next head coach of the Sydney Kings. Those conversations, though, contractually and whatnot, are still taking place. So it seems like we are progressing extremely positively, extremely quickly toward an agreement, and then that'll be signed. And I imagine this will be finalised and official at some point at the end of the week.
All right, so multi-year deal, clearly.
Probably.
Yeah, okay.
Better be.
He's not mates with the former coach, which is a tick as well, which obviously what called Adelaide out at the end. This is a big development, and they're moving pretty quickly, Sydney, because a couple of years ago when they had the Will Weaver situation, that clearly was NBA and it was into free agency, and it again happened 12 months ago. So Sydney, Brian Goorjian, clearly, because of his name, but one, they want to get this locked away really fast, right?
I mean, think of just last season where they had the situation with Chase Buford. They weren't able to go into free agency with a head coach. And so they weren't able to recruit some of the high-level local free agents on the market. So Will McDowell-White, there was no real conversation that could be had there because McDowell-White would enter that conversation and think, all right, who's my head coach? Who are my teammates around me? They've learned from that. And so they know that they at least need the foundation of this team in place before they can move forward into free agency.
The reporting from Matt Logan, Mick Randall the other day was that it was done. Your reporting was that it's not quite done, and you're consistently saying that now. Is there any percentage chance this doesn't become official?
There is always a chance that something could happen, right? But I would put it in the 99% chance that it does happen. Wow. Just from what I'm told, speaking to people both in Sydney and around Brian Goorjian, nothing is officially agreed to, although it's almost like informally accepted among both parties that this will happen.
Good for the league, Copes.
It is very good for the league to have the best coach in NBL history to come back. Most winningest coach. He's the most winningest coach in the NBL history. Yep. So it's fantastic to have him back. My question was, and someone else asked me, has the league outgrown Brian Goorjian, or has? And I said, no way. He's coaching the Olympic team. Now, Goorjian was a defensive coach for all these many years. Now, all of a sudden, like you say, he's running gun now. He's trying to score points. He had a team in China. They scored 130 points. So I think he knows, he's smart enough to know, I got to get along with the way the game's being played. And I think that'll help the City.
Mate, Goorjian's the man.
Yeah.
Comes back after all those years away. Every year he coached in the NBL for the last, 20 years? Yeah. Semi-finals, throw some championships in there as well, some grand final appearances. Comes back and goes bang, bang, 2 semi-final appearances with the Hawks. Now, wasn't able to get him into the championship series, but you got to be in that mix, right? Like that's what Scott Roth has now going with Tasmania. It's what Dean Vickerman has on a regular basis at Melbourne United. He's the perfect guy for the Kings.
What's their roster look like? Are we talking a possible Xavier Cooks return? Of course, we'll get to Jalen Galloway in a moment. Like, how does their roster actually currently constructedly look?
I mean, right now, there aren't many guys on that roster. Okay. Alex Tui is the next star. There's a very good chance he's back for next season. They've got McQuatch Malawatch on the team option, which I expect them to pick up. You've got Angus Glover signed for next season, and obviously there's been some conversation around him. Outside of that, they've got Jackson McCoy coming into a roster spot as well. Off the top of my head, Geordie Hunter is a free agent. Quite Noy is a free agent. Wow. These are guys who they all want back, but there isn't much on this roster right now. Imports that they'll show some interest in Jalen Adams in bringing him back.
But DJ Hogue is signed as well.
DJ Hogue has a mutual option on that.
But now you're going to have the coach in place to be able to sit down and help make these decisions.
Sure.
Yes, and you're going forward telling them this would be Brian Goorjian. That is a different proposition than. This may be underselling Mahmoud Abdel Fattah, but a G League head coach who no one really in this country has a familiarity with.
With Gorge on deck, could this be a landing spot for Jack White?
He's under contract at Melbourne United, I think, isn't he?
From what I understand,
we got Luke Travers in that spot.
Well, if they were to say, however, it all kind of works, not dissimilar to Xavier Cooks is the same situation, right? Xavier Cooks and Jack White are both with one with Kings, one with Melbourne United.
So there was, from what I understand, and I have to confirm this, so maybe I shouldn't say this on TV. I have to confirm it, but from what I understand, a similar thing that just happened with Jalen Galloway happened with Jack White, where prior to that person going over to the NBA or around the NBA ecosystem, there was a deal done in which the rights of that player would be kept with that team. And so Jack White did sign an extension to keep his NBL rights with United, and it is a situation where if he does have a desire to return to the NBL, like if Xavier Cooks does, like if Jalen Galloway does, then that team has the right of first refusal or the first right of refusal, and I expect them to take it.
Yep.
It's exciting. It's exciting that Gorge is back. He's got a slate where he can build his own roster, which no doubt appeals to him to a fair bit as well. Jalen Galloway's an interesting one because two-way deal to go to Milwaukee, which is outstanding news for the young man. And, of course, the NBL, the continual talk around the NBA and the NBL being a feeder program. This is exciting for him.
This is very cool for Jalen Galloway. And from a pure counting stats perspective, he was the most improved player this season. He didn't win the award. He came second, but all of his averages doubled. He is your prototypical NBA wing. He's 6'7", super athletic. The first step is incredible. The jump shot came along, especially at the start of the season. This is a 2-year deal, I'm told, as well. So it's a 2-year, two-way deal. So it's the remainder of this season as well as the entirety of next season. And so he did sign a 3-year extension with the Sydney Kings, so his NBL rights remain with Sydney. But I wouldn't expect him in Sydney, obviously, the end of this year and all of next season too.
So cool to see. Took a great leap this year. The moment the season started, he comes out at the blitz, and you could see the explosiveness, the first step, and the bounce. Like all of a sudden, he was like well and truly an above the rim guy. I liked what he gave that team in those previous seasons, especially at the defensive end. But all of a sudden, he was a guy no one could stay in front of. And when he got out in the open floor, he was all over the rim.
More importantly, though, his confidence level went from here to here. Because you could see it on, like you said, you could see it on TV. He was taking guys to the basket. He was dunking on people. He was knocking down the jump shots. I'm like, who is this guy? It's a different look.
In the NBL, there is so much value in understanding how athletic you are. I think it's the jump that Keanu Pinder took when he went to Cairns. I think he realized, like, oh no, I am damn athletic, and I'm more athletic than everyone else in this league, and I think that helped his leap. I think that helped Jalen Galloway's leap too.
The three-point shooting is the thing, right? Like, he's got all these other tools. He's going to be able to defend on the perimeter at a good level at the NBA, in the NBA, but it's whether he makes shots. Yep. If he makes shots, he can be a 3-and-D athletic guy that, you know, plays with high IQ. He's got to keep improving and knock down shots.
That's why he gets 2 years, right? And they have 2 years to have a look at him and try and work with him to see if he's going to get to that level of where he needs to get to play NBA. It's a cool story. And when Sydney played their best basketball, ironically, we all thought Sydney would be slow starters and get going late. It was the opposite. And when he played his best basketball, at the start of the year, he was almost unstoppable before he got hurt. And then DJ Ho come back, and the coach had trouble being able to connect and chemistry and rotations and all the rest of it. It's a bloody good story. It sucks for us because we don't get to see him on a regular basis, but he goes to the NBA, and I don't think we'll see him back for a long time.
I don't think so. And again, it's a credit to the Kings organization who are now developing a track record of developing guys to the NBA. Jalen Galloway is maybe one of the most organic ones. Him and Luke Travers, they're the two that came here as development players to the NBL, really rose, became rostered players, and then got drafted. He didn't get drafted. Travers got drafted. He gets signed to a 2-way deal. That's as organic as that pathway becomes.
Great story.
Isaac Humphries in Adelaide. He was looking around. He was going to wait. He did wait and ended up signing that.
Show us the money.
He got it. Did he get it? Did he get the cash?
I mean, a deal got done.
Come on,
that's a yes.
Get the cash.
That's a yes.
A deal doesn't get done if the terms aren't appetizing to both parties. They were able to come to an agreement there. There were other teams involved.
It sounded like this was going to take a while, and then all of a sudden it's done. What changed?
So other teams obviously came to the table, and there was the Sydney Kings were a team that were interested.
Yep.
But the Adelaide 36ers, they made their move. All you have to be is very proactive. You have to be aggressive, and the Adelaide 36ers did that, and they were able to come to terms with a deal that was appetizing.
Other teams are throwing money at you. You got to be smart enough to go, let me sign this guy right now before we have to pay all of our money.
Of course, these other teams aren't allowed to be making these offers
at
this time, which is the funny part about it.
I could just be running into this, but he's a major Scott Ninnis guy, is he? Because the moment Scott Ninnis got locked in, you're right, it felt like he was going to go into the off-season a little longer and see, and then all of a sudden Scott Ninnis gets locked in and Isaac Humphries is like 2 days later.
I wouldn't necessarily put it down to Scott Ninnis being like this guy who's an amazing recruiter. I think it's more, okay, the foundation is there now. There's familiarity there. I know what I'm going into, and there's so much value in that as a franchise.
Now, before we let you go, a little bit of news out of Brisbane.
Yes, so there are options currently being picked up around the league from the teams that have been knocked out of the playoffs. I'm told that the Brisbane Bullets have picked up Nathan Sobey's option. Now, this was sort of a fake option. There was a deadline of February 29, and basically it was a medical option where if Nathan Sobey was healthy, then it would be an automatic pickup. And all the physicals have been done. Nathan Sobey is healthy, and so that option is picked up. And so he remains on that roster for NBL 25.
Okay.
Wasn't he in the game? Wasn't he sitting at the?
Part of the deal was courtside Illawarra Halls. five tickets a year.
He got the best seat in the house, didn't
He
he?
did have the best seat in the house. Hey, you like this, Copes?
He looked good. Yeah, I think it's good for him. But I would have loved to see him play somewhere else, somewhere where he had that alpha coach, something like a Joey Wright, because he played his best basketball in Adelaide. Remember that? He
did.
You need someone to push you. Now, I'm not saying the coach can't do that now. I'm just saying he probably needs someone to be more aggressive towards what they want from him. You know what I mean? And not let him do what he wants to.
See, I don't know. I disagree. I feel like there's a good relationship there with Justin Schuller, and he got him playing at a good level. Now, the idea is, can he make him consistent?
Right.
And take him now to an All-NBL first-team level next season. Yeah. But it's hard. We talk about DJ Vasiljevic, Adelaide, you got to lock him up. Yeah. It's hard to get high-level locals like that. Yeah. Same thing here with Brisbane.
Of course.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Olgun Uluc, ESPN. Make sure you check it out, espn.com.au, via all the socials as well. Final four, semi-final start Thursday night. We'll start to pick them apart next on NBL Overtime. NBL Overtime right around Australia. Bernard Copeland and Liam Santamaria, Cam Luke, and finally the Final Four is here. We have had to wait, FIBA break, and then we sit around and wait for the playing games to be done and dusted, but it kicks off Thursday night in Melbourne. But we, Bernard Copeland, are going to start Friday night in Perth. 14,000 are going to be there. The Red Army are going to be going nuts. JJ's with momentum, and it is going to be a wonderful time to watch two of the best in the business. Milton Doyle and Bryce Cotton go at it. How fun is it, Copes? You've been in this situation as we have a look at what's happened over the course of the year. Wildcats in round one over the JJs. There you go. Another close one a little later in the year as well. And then down in Tassie, just to end the season, it was the Jack Jumpers without Bryce Cotton, it must be noted. But you are in this situation. We've seen many great guards go at it in NBL finals and NBL playoffs and NBL grand finals in the 90s, which you're a part of it. They don't necessarily guard each other, Cotton and Doyle, but they're both on the big stage.
Look, it's exciting because both of those guys are dynamic scorers. They both can get the job done. Here's the difference for me, Liam. If Cotton doesn't score, Perth probably doesn't win. Doyle, it was proven that Doyle doesn't have to score for the Tasmania Jack Jumpers to win. You understand? So that's a big advantage for Tasmania because if you shut their best scorer down, Cotton, more than likely they don't have the same success as other teams, right? It's proven. When you shut Cotton down, someone else has to score. Now they have scores, but they're not built like that. Other guys don't take on the leading role and do the scoring. But with Tasmania, if you shut Doyle down, they got McVeigh, they got Magnay, they got guys. That system is amazing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Now, we talk about shutting a guy down. And for some reason, we sort of just think, all right, how many points did they score? Kept him in single digits, shut him down. Think about the game against Illawarra, Tasmania. Yeah, they kept him to 5 points. He had 10 assists. He didn't get shut down at all. You just throw extra bodies at him. He looks over the top. I got Magnay here. I got McVeigh there. Hey, I'll find Jordan Crawford, my guy over here. You're right, though. With Bryce, if you limit his scoring, if you keep him into, 15 points or less, which people rarely do, but if you can, you'll beat the Wildcats. You're bang on. So he has to carry a bigger scoring load. The beautiful thing about Bryce, though, is a 7-time scoring champ. So usually he can find a way to get it done. But the Jack Jumpers, the way they move the ball, it makes it so hard to guard because you throw extra bodies at anybody, everyone else will get involved.
Well, Justin Tatum watches this show because you said last week, double Milton Doyle and make other people beat you. And other people did beat them. So at least we know that our main JT is watching. With Bryce, you are right. But you just got to make it hard for him. You've got to try and make him as inefficient as possible. If Bryce gets his 25 and he needs 25 shots to get it, you're going to win the game. Because he has to take shots. He's a volume shooter in this particular team and the system is built around him for a very good reason. He may well be the greatest import we've ever seen and one of the top 2 greatest players of all time. They just need to make sure he's not shooting at 50%, 45%. If they get him down 33, 34% and make it tough, he gives them a chance.
Yeah, it's why those guys, Ty Webster, Jordan
have to
Usher,
play.
those are Christian Doolittle. They have to be
Yeah.
big this series for the Wild.
Well, you mentioned it right there. I'm going to start with you because the key matchup for me is Magnay v Pinder. Pinder, of course, first year there. Magnay's had some injury issues, but what he did last week, Copes, you won't shut up about it, understandably. This is earlier in the year, of course, when they matched up, but he was amazing last week, Magnay.
No, I don't want to disrespect anybody here when I say this. Because I played with a guy named Mark Brackey, who was the most physical, the strongest big man, the most skilled, strongest big man I've ever played with, okay? And then you put a Simon DeWhite with that Mark Brackey. That's how Magnay played last week. His body's bigger, he's gotten stronger. He tried to block every shot. So even if you made the shot, it was going to be tough on you. He was up and down the floor. Some of the dunks he had, Liam, I was in the stadium. Some of the dunks he had was just, he's an athletic beast. So, look,
Bang.
he's just, and he was feeling it too. He was feeling it. So if you get this Magnay to play in this series, I don't know if Perth have anyone can stop him.
Again, watch these actions though. They're doubling the ball, like you said with Milton Doyle, like Illawarra had success with Bryce, but he's just finding Will Magnay every time. So you open up that opportunity for Will Magnay to be as dominant as he was, and he was an absolute beast.
Yes.
Completely dominated that game, just like Parker Jackson Cartwright dominated the other game that night. How do Perth handle that? What do they do off the ball screen? If they don't hard show or double like that, Milt's now going to come across and he's going to get to his spot if they stay at home on Will Magnay. So fascinated to see how they handle those actions. But Pinder versus Magnay is crucial. We talk about Doyle and Cotton. These two guys, who can have the bigger impact on the series between those two bigs?
Let's not forget as well, former Wildcat. Will Magnay. And played in the grand final for them, of course, that Melbourne United beat them when Bryce Cotton wasn't there. Jack McVeigh, unbelievable last week. Huge game, and again, his second half of the year, all NBL second team, huge part of it. What did you make of this, Liam?
I'm shocked he didn't have any case to answer. I'm shocked he wasn't cited in some kind of way. Now, he was given an unsportsmanlike foul, clearly deliberate. Look, he looks at him, and then he decides to drop the people's elbow.
WWE.
Yeah, it wasn't good. Now, it's the cut and thrust of the postseason. I get that. It's physical. Everybody's passion is high. He carried on a little bit after that, which was interesting to see. But it was weird that nothing came of that after the fact. It felt like he should have been cited in some kind of way.
I agree, because I was there. And it seems like every time we watch it, it gets slower and slower. He has more time to look at where he's going and then drop that elbow. I mean, look, don't suspend him. It's the playoffs. But you're right. Somebody has to make that phone call.
To both, I agree, no suspension. I don't think it's a suspensible offence, if that's even a word. He's lucky Lockie Albrook didn't actually react. And things had got a little more chaotic. Because then the NBL would look at it, probably wrongly or rightly, look at it a different way. Had it all of a sudden turned into a tussle, McVeigh's initial action would have been looked and dealt with a lot more harshly than what it actually was. Unsportsmanlike, yeah, fair enough. I'm not saying he should have been ejected, but had things have got out of control on the back of it, McVeigh would have had an early shower, I think.
Yeah, it seemed a bit out of character. It seemed like the old McVeigh, whereas this guy who's all about all the different things that he talks about, and he's so positive and focused.
Yeah.
And then the way he behaved afterwards, he had a sensational game, and he has been terrific for the JJs. It was a bit of a weird moment.
Turned himself into a top 10 player in the league with the changes you suggested, and for a split second, he absolutely looked like the older Jack McVeigh. Marcus Lee injury. Don't blink. You wouldn't have seen Marcus Lee. First play of the game gets hurt. Now, he's day by day. We don't have any news on where this all kind of sits. It felt a lot more dramatic and worrying at the time. There was a little rumour and innuendo that he might have had to leave the arena. That wasn't the case. Copes, you were there. He come back out and was warming up. How critical is he to getting on the floor against his Perth team? Copes?
We don't want anyone to get hurt. We're not calling for that. That was the best thing that could have happened in Tasmania, though, because...
Jeez.
I'm not saying we don't want anyone to get hurt. We want to see Marcus Lee come back and play. Marcus, we want to see you come back and play, my friend. But the fact that Magnay played so many minutes and was so effective and got that crowd going with all those dunks was the best thing that could happen to him. No, we want you back, bro. Come on back, please.
Honestly, I speak for Marcus Lee right now when I say, I don't know if you do, but what you are saying right now, I'm not going to buy this. We want you back here.
Come on back, bro.
I understand what you're saying. Make of it.
I think they're going to need him.
Yeah.
Now, Krislovic comes in and plays some good minutes when required as the backup 5, and he can do a job for sure. But Pinder and Saar, the size, the length, if Magnay gets into foul trouble, you want to have that two-headed monster of Lee and Magnay.
Which has been a concern at times. Who wins? Who wins this series?
I think the Jack Jumpers win. I'm going 2-zip.
A little sweep.
I think Perth have been, as you say, a little rust. They've been sitting at home waiting.
Yep.
Tassie are in incredible form. They've won 5 in a row. I think they shock them in game 1, and they close it out at home.
I agree. I think the way the Jack Jumpers looked the other night. But now listen. Let me get off the fence.
Oh, no.
Get off the fence.
Yeah, please.
I think the Jack Jumpers win in 2.
Yeah.
But I don't think Magnay can play as good as he played the other night. He was. You guys don't get it. I was sitting right there.
They win or they lose.
They're gonna win.
Yeah.
But I just don't think he plays as good as he played the other night.
Okay.
Because other teams watch him play now. Okay.
I think Perth will win 2-1 overtime game 3. I think we're going to see a ripping series. But I think I think Perth and Melbourne sort of have their eyes on other things late in the year, and we take too much stock into the last couple of weeks of the regular season. You've alluded to it. Sitting on your backside for 2 weeks, how's that going to affect both Perth and Melbourne in game 1 while these other teams have played? But Tassie have only played 1 game in about 3 weeks anyway, to be fair. All right, let's get to the other series. Melbourne. Sitting around, waiting for Illawarra. There you go.
How many days? 16, 17 days?
It's almost been 3 weeks. 19 days, I think. Melbourne played on the Sunday.
That's not normal. That's not normal. I don't care what you say.
Not.
No, sir.
Okay, so Melbourne are going to win this series, okay?
Okay.
Hear me now.
All right.
But Melbourne Dean knows, they're not stupid. They know they got to bring their A game straight away. You can't give these guys, you can't give the Hawks a break. You can't do it. Lindsay used to say, never give a sucker an even break. You can't, because they're in playoff mode, okay? They played 2 strong games. Yes, they made mistakes or whatever, but you can, and Liam, we call that game. They got a little confidence here in Melbourne. Don't give them a break. You got to hit them hard and get them out of the way. If you don't, they're floating.
Can't take them easy. No way. You can't, and you're going to have to come out and punch them in the face right from the very
Straight away.
Sure. Hawks, man, they are ready to come in and give this a good, solid crack.
100%.
If Gary Clark gets going or Tyler Harvey gets going, if Sam Froling can play Joe Uluc, tough. Like, there's a lot of great matchups in this series, and Melbourne are going to need
19 days, Cam, 19 days
I
to sit around. I don't care how many practice games you have against your teammates. It ain't the same with playing against somebody, who's trying to win a championship.
You mentioned JLA v Froling. It is an interesting matchup because Will Magnay, we keep talking, and we should, about last week. Froling was disappointing. Now he's going to take on JLA, who has been the dominant big man the last couple of years when he's been in the NBL. Who is this advantage to going into it, Liam, do you think?
I think the advantage is with Melbourne, and it's not just Joe Lual, it's Ariel Hukporti as well, right? Because Lachlan Olbrick is young, and he's, the bright lights of the playoffs are pretty shiny. And so I'm not expecting a huge impact necessarily from him. He's found it tough in these first couple of playoff games. Sam Froling needs to be enormous because that is a tough duo, Uluc and Ariel Hukporti. And you got 40 minutes of hell at the 5 spot there between those 2 guys. Uluc in particular, if he is rolling, he can dominate a game.
Yes, we've seen that.
Froling needs to be what he was last night or more in this series.
Can he be?
He can. It's hard to do over the course of a full 30, 35 minutes, the game after game, and I give Melbourne the edge in this spot.
You know what? Last time he played, we keep bringing this up, Froling, 12 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. JLA had 7 points and 5 rebounds. And he didn't play his best game.
That was a big Hawks win, right?
Yeah, it was a big swing. Now,
No, hold on, was it?
No. The Hawks didn't win the game.
now, here's the thing, though.
The way coach is talking like they...
No, I'm just saying. We were talking about those 2 guys, but the Hawks had this game won. They were playing good basketball, but it was the guys coming off the bench. It was Travis and
Clark.
Clark, 13 and 13, that got them over the hump.
Travis and Clark are playing this weekend, right?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I know you're a Melbourne United fan.
I'm not a Melbourne
Super
United fan.
Melbourne United super fan.
I understand what you're saying, but I
19 days, Cam.
all right, so this is what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, tell me what's
At quarter time, this is what will happen. At quarter time, Illawarra lead by a point, and Coast will be like, I'm onto something.
No.
At half time, Melbourne lead by 8. It'll be 12 or 3/4 time, and they'll win game 1. And then you'll be like,
How many will they win game
geez,
1?
Melbourne United, they were well.
What would they win game 1 by?
12 to 14.
Okay.
You give me an over/under, we'll have a.
No, bro. You might
We'll
be
have a Hungry
right.
Jack's burger
I'm just
on it.
saying, 19 days is a long time to wait, Cam. Do you understand what I'm saying?
So,
When a team is coming in and played 2 playoff games already.
Yep.
Now, Melbourne will win this. I got it. But they better hit them in their face.
what are they going to do?
Will they sweep him?
No, I think Illawarra wins 1.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So I actually do think that. I think the home crowd, and a big shout out to the crew in Wollongong and Illawarra and everywhere around those surrounding areas. We know the times haven't always been really great in recent times. You've got a team to be proud of. You played great basketball and you filled the joint last night. And I know I was watching it on the TV, but I'm not certain I've ever heard it louder than it was last night. So kudos to you, and you get a huge chance again this weekend to see your crew back in front of you at
Melbourne United fan right here. Big fan, bro. You got to have your jersey.
I'm not anti-John, really.
We got to put your jersey
Oh, man,
in
I
the
can't believe Ian Clark's wearing your jersey, man. You still sulking about that?
I'm not sorry.
Oh,
I love that 21.
Change the scenery's next.
Tonight, we're very excited to be at the MyState Bank Arena to welcome the millionth fan for the Hungry Jacks NBL 24 season. Hey, thank you. Do you have any idea why you're here? Well, tonight, this is a very special occasion because you are our millionth attendee for the Hungry Jacks NBL season this year. Firstly, we've got your own Tassie Jack jumpers with 1 million. Is give you the incredible courtside seats.
A million fans, NBL 24, and honestly quite ironic, the fact that the millionth fan is in Tassie. We haven't been able to get a ticket. It's been sold out ever since they rolled into the league. That's got to be so hyped, Coach. And it's got to be so hyped. I'm going to go to Tassie Monday night.
You going to
I'm
Tassie?
going to go. I've just made the decision right now.
You got tickets?
I haven't yet, but...
I don't even think you're big enough to get tickets in Tassie. It's sold out.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Well, it's going to be...
in the building?
I'm going to hopefully be in the building, so hopefully I'm going to be there. But that is incredible, and a big shout out to each and every of the million NBL fans who have gone to games this year, because they have seen great games, and you are a huge reason why this league's going to where it is.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Change the scenery. We did it last week, and there was some feedback. Let's start with you, Liam Santamaria. Who needs, or who should, or who wants a change of scenery?
From these teams recently kind of knocked out,
You know that I'll let you do whatever you want, mate, so tell me whatever you want.
I'm going to go with Angus Glover.
Okay.
I
It was
agree.
kind of strange the way that finished up this season. Now, of course, he's under contract.
Yep.
He was the hero of Game 5 of that great championship series. Don't forget, not just Game 5. It was terrific. That entire series was getting himself some Larry Sangstock medal votes along the way, you would have to think. And then over the course of this season was in and out of the rotation. Now, they're going to have a change of scenery in their own right with the new coach coming in and the GOAT and so on and so forth. So what does all of that look like? But if you're Angus Glover, over this past month or so, you've been thinking, man, I don't know. What does next season hold for me in the purple and gold? So he's a guy that I think probably fits in this conversation.
I agree.
Look, it clearly was a personality clash with the coach, right? From the
seemed
outside
that
looking
way,
in, it
yeah.
seemed that way without having it. So now that the coach is gone, maybe the conversation is different about his future. But you are right. Like the last month, 6 weeks, when he's already starting to work on his mental side of where he's going to be next year, there's no doubt. Do you have a place that's good for him?
I don't know. Well, not necessarily. And I also don't know how it would work because he's under contract.
Right.
And if you're under contract and the team wants you, that makes it tough.
Yeah.
You know, like Todd Blanchfield and Mitch Norton were both under
Right,
contract,
right.
but the team was happy to kind of make some
The
moves.
best thing about Glover, though, is every time he was on the floor, he played hard.
Plays hard.
Yeah, love him. Love him.
Will McDowell White.
Oh, yeah.
And now, I don't know if it's a team or it's a mutual or a player option. So there is an opportunity where Will McDowell White is on the market, right? And He didn't have the year that he had 12 months ago. Injuries, unfortunately, I touch wood for him, but it has been a situation that's plagued him at different times, as we know, in his career. And the one year he got a real good look at it, he carried that team all the way to a grand final appearance into Game 5. He was outstanding. He is in a situation where he needs the ball in his hand.
Yep.
So I think the conversations with Mody Maor will be around, hey, am I still going to be the lead guard? Which I think he was planning on being the lead guard in this year, and then he gets injured in the pre-season. Jackson Cartwright gets the pill and goes to a level that I'm not certain anyone thought he was going to get to. So I understand why it would be best for Will McDowell-White to stay in New Zealand if him and Mody Maor have that relationship. But I also understand that he's gettable. Well, I believe he's gettable.
Do you?
And I personally believe that, and I said this last week, I think if I was Adelaide, I would be trying to pair him with DJ Vasiljevic and having an all-Australian backcourt. Say, here, Will McDowell-White, here's the pill, right? You lead this team. You got Vasiljevic here, right? Now, touch wood because he does get injured, right? He's had a lot of injuries in his career, so that might just, just make some teams second guess it from a cost point of view. I don't know how you can do incentives and the rest of it. Yeah. But, man, I'm a huge Will McDowell-White guy, and I want to see someone roll the ball out to him, and hopefully he stays fit, and we see the Will McDowell-White that we deserve to see.
If there's a chance for him to be available, there's all kinds of teams that would be in that.
Yes, that's right.
You'd think Sydney, and Southeast Melbourne,
Adelaide,
Tasmania, for sure.
All right, who you got?
I'm going to go a little bit different.
Okay.
Let's talk about Patty Mills.
Oh, hello.
Patty's got a change of scenery right now because Atlanta's let him go.
Yep.
My question is, does he, if he's going to play on this Olympic team, does he need to be playing with a team right now, or does he go just work out in California or Hawaii or wherever he goes?
So my answer to that, Liam, before I let you go, is
Go ahead.
never ask a question you don't have an answer to.
I got an answer.
So answer
I
your
got
own
an
question.
answer.
What do you got?
I think he needs to be playing. I don't think you can just sit around and wait on the Olympics. Those are the best players in the entire world. They're coming at you. And what people expect from Patty Mills is for him to be on his game, because if he's not on his game, then pretty much the Olympic team's not going to be great either. So I think he needs to be playing somewhere else. He needs to, if it's an overseas team, if it's NBA, I don't know, but he needs to be playing somewhere.
See this vision?
Yep.
This is why he lands on a contending team at the back end of this series, this season, for sure.
Yep.
Because you want to put him out in the middle of a playoff series to come out and hit some shots, he's going to be ready,
And he'll be ready
for the moment.
Yep.
You know he's putting in the work, he's getting the reps, maybe he's not been playing minutes, but he's going to be ready to go. So it's an interesting question, because if he lands on a contending team, it's probably not going to result in big minutes, per se. But it's still going to be a part of the team, and he's going to be ready to go in a playoff series.
Yep.
And then I think you roll him into the Olympic campaign and off you go. But surely one of these contending teams picks him up at the back end of this.
So this is a double conversation, right? Because you are right. I think he will end up on a roster, but he's not going to play a great deal. So your point about him playing is about playing minutes, not necessarily being on a tean, right?
You got to remember he hasn't played minutes all year, though.
He hasn't played all year. He's just going to go to a better contending team in the same role.
Right.
Let's just forget that and the Olympic Games right now.
Okay.
Let's just have a look more about next season. Is the NBL a genuine possibility? He's been here before with the lockout, 13, 14 years ago. Is the NBL, I'll ask you, Liam, is that an NBL possibility for Patty Mills?
At some stage, yes.
Well,
Is that next season? Probably not.
okay.
But at some stage, now we've seen Andrew Bogut, we've seen Matthew Dellavedova, we've seen Aaron Baines, Patty Mills and Joe Ingles. I'm hoping at the back end of their career, they're going to come back. Now, we all remember this during the lockout when he played for the Melbourne Tigers, and of course he went on to just completely blow up and become, an absolute great of the game for Australia, both in the green and gold and on the NBA level. But yeah, I think at some stage, for sure, it's going to be in the mix. Is it going to be next year?
I think he's
so
too
sure.
good right now to be coming back to the NBL. Not that the NBL is not great, but I think he gives too much. He has too much to give to the NBA, and there'll be plenty of teams looking to pick him up.
This absolutely needs to be linked to a new franchise. Dave Stevenson said a couple of weeks ago that they're keen, or a couple of days ago that they're keen. There's interest. Of course, there's interest. Needs to link Patty Mills to a new franchise. Here, give him 20% of the ownership. Let him play a year or two. And because you've got to keep in mind, he's not just so great on court. How great he is off court. In fact, he may be better off court than he's on court, and that's saying something. So it's not just a player you're getting, it's an ambassador in a million different ways. Not the ambassador, because that's, of course, you, but he's an ambassador.
Whereabouts?
Does he?
Wherever Paddy wants to play and reside, that's where the NBL should put the next
Does he
player.
start on the Olympic team, though? Does he start?
I like him as spark plug scorer off the bench for this group.
Okay.
I think he starts. I think he gets an opportunity to be a starter of the Boomers, and we'll see how the warm-up and the play-in and all the rest of it goes. But I think they will go to camp with him as a starter, and then we'll just see where it all sort of sits.
Good.
Plenty more, including yes or no. And, well, let's see if Liam's done any work and see if Santa's watching his next.
You know I've been watching, Cam. Santa's watching. I like these guys from the bench. Milton Doyle, bang, knocks it down. Majuk Ding, a little bit harder work, but he got there.
Nice rotation.
He got there, and I'll tell you what, he was pretty happy about it. Come on. How about my man in Adelaide?
Oh, yeah, bro.
I've had this scored up, waiting for a little while. This is courtside security
I like this.
at the Adelaide.
Oh, bro, come on.
Oh, my God.
It's like watching Coach side. Like.
Oh, bro, you got me beat.
And this is my man, Olgun Uluc. This is his article about Mahmood and the firing. 21 sources.
Jeez, I'll tell you what. Well, to be fair to Olgun, there wasn't a shortage of people coming out to sack him, so
Well, that is true.
fair enough too. Right, yes or no, Tom? You ready for this? Mm-hmm. Is Isaiah Thomas disrespecting the league by saying he would easily win the MVP?
Yes.
Hell yes.
Should the NBL introduce a player of the month?
Yes. Sounds good.
Would you select Xavier Cooks before Nick Kay for the Olympics?
Ooh. No.
What?
Did Parker Jackson Cartwright have more of an impact in his first season than Bobby Locke?
No.
Wow.
Would a Tassie Illawarra grand final be more exciting than a Melbourne Perth matchup?
No.
Would you re-sign Anthony Lamb today?
Yes.
Would you?
Nah.
No, you'd hold what, because of the injury or?
Snapped his Achilles, bro.
Yeah.
It's all right. People are coming back from Achilles now in 2 weeks.
Perfect example.
3 weeks.
Perfect example. It wasn't 2 weeks, but he was back. Hey, it's semi-final time, baby. See ya.
Yeah.